Mira stared out of the transport window as the huge structure of the Galactic Academy came into view. It was a floating complex in space, with gleaming towers and docking platforms stretching like metal fingers into the void. Hundreds of ships were arriving at the same time, carrying cadets from every corner of the galaxy. Mira's small ship shook slightly as it aligned with the docking bay, but she gripped the railing and held herself steady. She had faced storms, high winds, and crowded shuttle ports on Earth, and this felt much the same. Her stomach fluttered with excitement and fear. She had dreamed of this day for years, reading stories of explorers who went beyond the stars. Earth had trained her well. On her planet, humans learned to survive harsh climates, unpredictable storms, and wild creatures. The tales of humans overcoming impossible challenges were not just stories. They were lessons ingrained in every cadet who grew up on her world. As Mira stepped into the docking bay, she was surrounded by creatures of all shapes and sizes. Some had scales that shimmered in the light, others had multiple eyes, and a few had limbs bending in directions that seemed impossible. Many were taller than the tallest building on Earth, and they looked down at her with curiosity. Mira adjusted the strap of her bag and walked forward with steady steps. She refused to shrink back. A group of aliens whispered among themselves. "The human cadet is so small. She cannot possibly handle the academy," one said in a soft voice. Mira heard the words but did not respond. She had learned early that listening was important, but reacting was often a waste of energy. Her strength was in action, not argument. Inside the main hall, banners displayed the motto of the academy. Through courage, knowledge, and endurance, all worlds can be explored. Mira felt a thrill. She had trained for endurance, for courage, and for thinking quickly in unexpected situations. This motto matched her life perfectly. The instructors began the orientation. A tall alien with smooth gray skin and glowing blue eyes stepped forward. "Welcome, cadets. You are here to learn the skills of exploration. You will face tests that challenge your body, your mind, and your courage. There are worlds you will visit that are considered dangerous death worlds. No cadet is allowed to step on a death world without permission. It is forbidden. Many have tried and failed. Many have never returned. Remember this rule well." Whispers rippled through the hall. Death worlds were legendary. They were planets with extreme temperatures, deadly creatures, and conditions that would destroy the unprepared. The alien instructor's voice carried authority, and Mira felt a shiver of excitement rather than fear. Humans had faced harsh planets before. Mira knew she was ready. A fellow cadet, a towering being with green skin and multiple arms, leaned toward another. "Do you see her? She is a human. Humans cannot survive what we can. She will not last a week," it said with a sneer. Mira's small stature was easy to underestimate, but she had learned not to let others' opinions affect her focus. During registration, Mira met her first companion, a creature named Nico. Nico had pale fur and large, gentle eyes. He moved slowly, but he carried an air of calm confidence. "I have seen your file," Nico said quietly. "We're from Earth. That explains your endurance tests. Humans are known to survive the impossible." Mira smiled. "I just want to learn, that is all." Instructors handed out supplies and explained the rules of the first simulations. Cadets would be trained in controlled environments before any real mission. Mira noticed the fear. Some cadets' eyes as they listened to warnings about death worlds. She wondered why they were so afraid. On Earth, she had trekked across deserts, hiked through forests during storms, and swum in cold rivers. Survival was about knowledge, preparation, and staying calm. Her first night at the academy was quiet. Mira lay in her small quarters, listening to the hum of the space station. She thought about Earth, about the mountains she had climbed, and the forests she had explored. The skills she had learned there were not just for survival. They were lessons in creativity, patience, and courage. She whispered to herself, "This is going to be different, but I can do it." The next morning, cadets gathered in the training arena. The arena was enormous, filled with simulated terrains from multiple worlds. Instructors demonstrated the basic survival exercises. Mira followed carefully, memorizing the steps and imagining how she could improve them. During the first exercise, Cadets were tasked with crossing a ravine using a narrow bridge. Several alien cadets slipped or froze in fear, their long limbs getting tangled. Mira walked across steadily, eyes focused on the end of the bridge. Her training on Earth had taught her balance, even in dangerous situations. When she reached the other side, some cadets stared at her in disbelief. "Humans are lucky," one alien muttered. Mira shook her head. "This is not luck," she said quietly. "It is training, focus, and knowing what to do." Some cadets stared at her with new respect, while others whispered their doubts. After the exercise, instructors gave feedback. "Survival is not just physical strength," the gray-skinned instructor said. "It is mental strength, creativity, and courage. Cadets who underestimate their opponents or the environment will fail. Remember this lesson." Mira nodded. She understood perfectly. The day continued with exercises in navigation, quick decision-making, and problem-solving. Mira noticed that when the instructors set challenges that required clever solutions, many alien cadets struggled. Their species had advantages in strength, speed, or senses, but when the challenge required thinking differently, they hesitated. Mira thrived. She remembered lessons from Earth about observing patterns, improvising tools, and thinking ahead. By the end of the day, Mira felt tired, but confident. Some cadets avoided her, some watched her closely, and a few came forward to speak. "You move differently," said one small alien cadet. "You think differently too? How do you do it?" Mira smiled. "I pay attention, I practice, and I never give up. That is all." In the dining hall, cadets ate together. Mira sat quietly at one corner, observing the interactions. Some aliens laughed at small mistakes. Others encouraged their friends. Mira thought about how she could learn from everyone. Survival was about adapting to situations and people, not just facing harsh planets. The instructors announced that tomorrow would be a special exercise in teamwork. Cadets would be paired randomly to solve a challenge together. Mira wondered who she would be paired with and how they would react to a human partner. She had learned long ago that cooperation often mattered more than strength. That night, Mira reviewed the maps and notes she had brought from Earth. She marked dangerous areas, potential strategies, and ideas for improvising tools. Her mind was busy, but she felt calm. This was not the first time she had prepared for something unknown. It would not be the last. As she drifted to sleep, she thought about the warnings of Deathworlds. Some cadets feared them. Some believed humans were weak. Mira smiled softly to herself. She knew that the true measure of strength was not in size or speed, but in courage, creativity, and determination. Earth had prepared her for the unknown, and the Academy would soon see why humans were not to be underestimated. Morning came, and the Academy was alive with activity. Mira joined the cadets in the arena, ready for whatever the instructors had planned. She moved with calm confidence, knowing that every challenge was a lesson, and every lesson would make her stronger. The whispers continued, some admiring, some doubtful, but Mira did not hear them. Her focus was on the path ahead. She was from Earth, and Earth had taught her that survival was more than physical strength. It was patience, strategy, and never giving up. Today would be her first chance to show it. Tomorrow, she might face the true test. But for now, Mira walked among towering aliens, small in size but large in determination, ready to begin her journey at the Academy. The morning air inside the Academy felt tense. Cadets gathered in the main training hall, their uniforms shining under the bright lights. Today was the first official mission simulation. It was a test that would decide how each cadet handled danger, teamwork, problem-solving under pressure. Mira stood quietly among the crowd. Her heart beat steadily, not from fear, but from anticipation. She looked around at the other cadets, most of whom were much larger than her. Some had thick scales, others had strong wings folded behind them, and a few had shimmering armor-like skin that reflected the light. Mira, by comparison, looked plain. Her uniform was neat but simple, and her dark hair was tied back tightly. An instructor stepped forward. It was Commander Rel, a tall alien with silver eyes and a calm but commanding voice. "Cadets," he said, "today you will begin your first mission simulation. This will test your ability to think, survive, and work together. The environment you will face is designed after one of the most dangerous worlds in the galaxy. Remember, this is not a real death world, but it will teach you what to expect if you ever step on one. The room went silent. Cadets exchanged nervous glances. The words Death World still carried a sense of dread, even when it was just a simulation. Mira felt a small spark of excitement. She had read about death worlds. They were known for unpredictable climates, wild predators, and deadly landscapes. To her, it sounded a little like home, Commander Ral continued. You will be assigned into groups of 4. Each group must collect energy crystals scattered across the terrain and return before the time runs out. The simulation will test your endurance, speed, and awareness. Those who fail to adapt will be removed from this stage of training. The groups were quickly arranged. Mira found herself with Nico, the calm creature with pale fur she had met earlier, and 2 other cadets, Laren, a tall reptilian being with sharp eyes, and Pharaoh, a short but strong insectoid with 6 small arms. Laren frowned when he saw Mira in the group. "We have a human," he muttered. "We are already at a disadvantage." Mira ignored the comment and adjusted her gear. Nico noticed and spoke softly. "Do not worry, Mira. Let us focus on working together. The goal is survival." When the doors to the simulator opened, a wave of heat and light flooded the room. The simulation chamber transformed into a landscape of red soil, rocky cliffs, and distant lightning storms. The air shimmered, and strong winds swept across the terrain. The temperature was high. Even some alien cadets began to sweat or blink their multiple eyes uncomfortably. Mira took a deep breath and smiled slightly. "It feels like a summer day back home," she said. Laren gave her a sharp look. "You call this normal?" "Close enough," Mira replied calmly. The group moved forward carefully. The mission was to collect 4 glowing energy crystals hidden in the area. Nico used a small scanner to detect energy signals. "There is 1 crystal 2 kilometers east," he said. The ground trembled slightly under their feet. Dust rose into the air. As they walked, Mira noticed how the terrain shifted. The ground was unstable in some places, and sharp rocks threatened to cut through boots. "Step lightly," she warned. "The surface might not hold in some spots." Laren ignored her and continued walking heavily. A second later, the ground cracked beneath him, and he slipped halfway into a pit of soft sand. Pharaoh and Nico rushed to help pull him out, while Mira quickly tied a strap to a rock and threw the other end toward him. "Hold this and climb slowly," she instructed. Laren grabbed it and managed to climb out. He stared at her, slightly embarrassed but silent. "Thank you," Nico said, as they continued walking. Mira only nodded. She was focused on the environment. Every sound, every shadow, told her something about what was coming. After half an hour of walking, they reached a small canyon. The scanner showed the first crystal nearby, hidden inside a cave. Pharaoh's antennae twitched nervously. "I sense movement," he said. Mira crouched low and studied the ground. Tracks of something large were visible near the entrance. "It's guarding the cave," Mira said. "We need a plan," Laren frowned. "We can scare it off with our weapons." Mira shook her head. "If it's a predator, loud noise will draw more. We can distract it instead." Using a small reflective tool from her kit, she caught the sunlight and flashed it toward a distant rock. The creature, tall, 4-legged animal with sharp horns, turned toward the light and moved away. The group quickly entered the cave. Inside, the air was cooler. Blue crystals glowed faintly on the walls. In the center of the cave lay the energy crystal they needed. Myra approached carefully and scanned for traps. "Clear," she said. Laren picked it up, and they started back out. The ground shook again. Outside, dark clouds gathered and lightning flashed across the red sky. "A storm is forming," Nico said. "We must hurry." The wind grew stronger, almost knocking them down. Dust filled the air, and visibility dropped. Mira covered her face with her scarf and guided the group toward higher ground. "We need shelter," she said loudly over the wind. They found a rocky overhang and took cover as the storm roared. The air was filled with static, and the wind screamed across the open land. Some cadets in the distance could be seen struggling to stand. Mira noticed one group trapped below, signaling for help. "Should we help them?" Nico asked. "They are not our group," Laren said quickly. "We will lose time." Mira looked at the struggling cadets. One had fallen and was unable to move. "If they do not survive, the mission means nothing," she said firmly. She tied a rope around her waist and stepped into the storm. The wind pushed hard against her, but she kept moving, using her strength and balance. She reached the fallen cadet, helped them up, and guided them to safety. When she returned, her uniform was covered in red dust, but her eyes were calm. Nico smiled faintly. "You think fast and act faster." Mira shrugged. "On Earth, storms like this can appear any time. You learn to move when you must." When the storm ended, they continued the mission. The group found the second and third crystals with less difficulty, working better as a team now. Laren had stopped questioning Myra's every move. Even Pharaoh followed her suggestions without argument. But the final crystal was located at the bottom of a steep ravine. The descent was dangerous. Loose stones and narrow ledges made it hard to climb down safely. Myra tied ropes carefully, double-checking each knot. "We go one at a time," she instructed. As they descended, Laren slipped again, his claws losing grip on the rock. Without thinking, Myra swung herself toward him and grabbed his arm. The rope pulled tight and pain shot through her shoulder. But she held on until he found footing again. Once everyone reached the bottom, they located the last crystal inside a cracked pillar. Mira noticed the structure trembling. "We have to move fast," she warned. The pillar broke apart moments later, but they managed to grab the crystal before it fell. By the time they returned to the extraction point, the timer was nearly done. Other groups were already waiting, many missing members or limping from injuries. Commander Ral observed each group carefully. When Mira's team stepped forward, all 4 members stood tall. They handed over the crystals, each one intact. "Mission complete," Mira said simply. Ral studied them silently, then nodded. "Excellent work. Your team completed the task faster than expected, and with full cooperation. Cadet Myra, your quick decisions saved lives today." The room fell quiet. The other cadets looked surprised. Some whispered, unable to believe a human had led a successful mission. Mira simply bowed her head slightly and said, "We did it together." Later that evening, as the sun of the simulated sky set, Mira sat on the balcony of her quarters. Nico joined her, carrying 2 cups of warm nutrient drink. "You are different from most cadets," he said gently. "You face danger with calmness." Mira looked out at the stars beyond the academy walls. "Where I come from, calmness is the key to survival," she said. "Fear never helps." Nico nodded. "Many here think humans are fragile, but I think they are mistaken."
"It's Mira's,"
smiled softly. "Maybe one day they will understand. Earth is not an easy place. It teaches you how to endure, how to adapt, and how to think when everything seems against you." As the lights of the academy flickered in the distance, she thought about what Commander Ral had said. Her actions had saved her team. Her quick thinking had proven her worth. Yet she knew this was only the beginning. The real test would come when she faced a true death world, not a simulation. Inside her heart, she felt a quiet strength growing. She did not need to boast or prove herself with words. Her actions spoke clearly. She was from Earth. That meant she had already been tested by one of the harshest worlds in the galaxy. Tomorrow, new challenges would come. But tonight, Mira rested peacefully, knowing that she had earned a small measure of respect in a place where humans were rarely seen. The academy was beginning to notice her, and the whispers were starting to change. No longer were they saying that humans were weak. Now, they were asking quietly among themselves who this small human was who faced storms without fear. Mira smiled as she looked at the stars, her mind calm and her heart steady. The galaxy was wide, and she was just beginning her journey. Weeks passed at the academy, and the training grew harder each day. Mira had become known for her calm nature and quick thinking. She was no longer ignored. Some cadets still whispered behind her back, but others greeted her with respect. Even the instructors began to notice her quiet strength. The simulations continued, each one more difficult than before. Cadets faced extreme temperatures, tricky puzzles, and teamwork challenges. Mira handled them all with patience and care. Her group always worked smoothly, and she never lost focus. One morning, all cadets were called to the Grand Hall. The room was filled with hundreds of students from different worlds. The giant screens above the stage flickered with the Academy's symbol. Commander Raoul stepped forward. His face was serious, and the room fell silent at once. "Cadets," he began, "you have completed your basic survival tests. Now, it is time for something greater. You will face the Deathworld Challenge." The words sent a wave of excitement and fear through the room. Every cadet knew what that meant. The Deathworld Challenge was a real mission, not a simulation. It was a test on an actual hostile planet, one that the Academy controlled for training purposes. Raoul continued, "You will be placed on a world with real dangers. You will need to survive for 3 days and complete a search mission. Only the best cadets will be chosen." Oh. Mira listened carefully. Her heart beat faster. A real Deathworld mission was exactly what she had dreamed of. But as she looked around, she saw worried faces. Many cadets were whispering about how deadly such worlds could be. Raoul raised a hand for silence. "However," he said, "the Academy has a rule. No cadet from a death world may participate. It is too dangerous for them to return to such conditions. Their instincts may make the test unfair." A murmur spread across the room. Mira blinked, not sure if she heard correctly. No cadets from death worlds? She looked down at her hands for a moment. Earth was classified as a death world because of its extreme weather, wild predators, and unpredictable nature. Then Raoul asked, "Is there any cadet here from a death world?" No one moved. The room was silent. Mira took a slow breath and raised her hand. "I am," she said in a calm voice. "I am from Earth." Every head turned toward her. Whispers began immediately. "Earth. That world is on the list. Humans are from a death world." Elo looked surprised. "You are human?" "Yes, Commander," Mira said firmly. "I am from Earth." He studied her for a long moment. "You understand what this means? The rule exists for safety. Deathworld natives often react differently under pressure. They have instincts that others cannot match." Mira nodded. "I understand. But I also believe that is why I can learn the most from this test. I want to face it." Raoul exchanged glances with other instructors. After a moment, he said, "Very well. You may participate, but you will be under direct observation. If anything goes wrong, you will be removed immediately." Mira bowed her head slightly. "Thank you, Commander." The next day, the chosen cadets gathered in the launch bay. They wore advanced survival suits and carried small supply packs. The instructors explained the mission. "You will land on the planet Ravos," said Raoul. "It is known for high gravity, its unpredictable storms, and aggressive wildlife. Your task is to collect samples of the rare mineral called Varan dust and return to the extraction point within 3 days." The cadets exchanged nervous looks. Mira checked her gear one last time and felt calm. She looked at Nico, who stood beside her, and smiled. "Ready?" she asked. Nico nodded slowly. "As ready as I can be." The ship descended through the thick clouds of Ravos. The planet below was a mix of deep forests, black mountains, and glowing rivers of strange minerals. Lightning streaked across the sky, and the wind made the ship shake. When they landed, the hatch opened with a hiss, and the heavy air rushed in. The gravity hit them at once. It was much stronger than on the Academy station. Some cadets stumbled, but Myra adjusted quickly. "Keep your knees bent," she said. "Move slow until your body adjusts." The ground was dark red and covered with strange plants that moved as if they were alive. The air smelled of metal and dust. The team spread out, scanning for Varan dust. Hours passed as they explored. The heat made it hard to breathe, and strange sounds echoed through the forest. At one point, a large shadow moved between the trees. Mira signaled everyone to stop. A creature stepped out tall as a tower, with glowing eyes and thick scales. Its roar shook the air. Some cadets froze. Nico whispered, "What do we do?" Mira crouched low. "Do not run. If you move fast, it will chase." The creature sniffed the air and moved closer. Myra picked up a small mineral from the ground and threw it far to the side. The noise distracted the creature, and it turned away to investigate. Mira motioned for everyone to move quietly in the opposite direction. They escaped without being noticed. When they finally stopped, Laren, who was also on the team, stared at her in disbelief. "How did you know that would work?" Mira smiled slightly. "On Earth, large animals react to motion and sound. Sometimes it is better to move calmly than to fight." They continued deeper into the forest and finally found a cave filled with glowing blue dust. The scanner confirmed it was Varen dust. Mira and the others began collecting it carefully. The air inside the cave was cooler, and the walls shimmered with faint light. Suddenly, the ground rumbled. Rocks began to fall from above. "Earthquake!" Nico shouted. "Move," Mira ordered. She grabbed Nico's arm and ran toward the entrance. A huge boulder blocked part of the path. Without hesitation, Mira found a narrow gap and began pulling away smaller rocks. Her gloves tore slightly and dust covered her face. But she kept working until they could squeeze through. They escaped just before the cave collapsed behind them. Everyone was covered in dust, but alive. As they rested outside, Laren looked at her again. "You are full of surprises, human. You did not panic once." Mira smiled faintly. "Panic does not help. Thinking does." That night, they set up a small camp near a ridge. The stars above Ravos glowed through the thick clouds. The sounds of distant creatures echoed in the dark. Mira stayed awake, keeping watch while others slept. She listened to the night sounds and the wind. It reminded her of Earthwild, dangerous, but beautiful. In the morning, they continued toward the extraction point. The journey became harder. The ground grew rougher, and the storms returned. Strong winds pushed them back, and flashes of lightning split the sky. Some cadets struggled to keep going. Mira helped them one by one, giving advice on how to balance against the wind and how to shield their eyes from dust. When a storm became too strong, she found a narrow cave where they could take cover. She gathered dry mineral dust and created a small fire with her heat pack. The warm light calmed everyone. "How do you always know what to do?" Nico asked quietly. Mira smiled. "Because on Earth, if you stop thinking, the world eats you alive. You learn fast, or you do not survive." When the storm ended, they continued again. By the third day, they reached the edge of a massive valley. The extraction point was on the other side. A broken bridge hung across it, swinging in the wind. "We have to cross," said Laren. "It looks unstable," Nico warned. Mira studied the structure. "If we cross one at a time and tie the rope to the side, we can make it," she said. She went first. The bridge creaked under her weight, but she moved slowly and evenly. When she reached the middle, a strong gust of wind hit. The bridge tilted, but she held on tight and waited until it steadied. Then she continued step by step until she reached the other side. She turned back and waved. "Your turn," she called. One by one, the others crossed safely. When the last cadet stepped off, the bridge finally gave way and fell into the valley below. Everyone looked at it silently, realizing how close they had been to danger. When they reached the extraction point, Commander Rao's voice came through their communicators. "Mission complete. You survived the Deathworld challenge. Extraction in 2 minutes." Relief filled the group. Nico looked at Mira. "You led us through everything," he said softly. Mira shook her head. "We did it together." When the ship lifted off, she looked down at the red planet. It was harsh, dangerous, and alive in every way. She admired its wild beauty. It reminded her of Earth, the world that had made her strong enough for this. Back at the academy, instructors greeted the returning cadets. Many groups had failed. Only 3 had completed the challenge. Mira's team was one of them. Commander Ryle looked at her with pride. "Cadet Mira," he said, "you have shown courage, intelligence, and control. You have proven that humans from Earth are far from weak. You have reminded us all why your world is called a death world and why your people are known for surviving the impossible." The other cadets applauded. Mira felt warmth rise in her chest. She had not come to prove anyone wrong, but to learn and grow. Yet now she had shown what humans could do. That night, she stood by the academy window and looked out at the stars. She thought about the journey. She had faced storms, beasts, and fear, but she had never lost her calm. Earth had taught her that strength was not about size or power. It was about endurance, courage, and cleverness. Mira smiled softly. She knew more challenges would come, and she was ready. She was from Earth, the death world that created survivors. Days passed after the Death World Challenge, but the academy was still buzzing with talk about the mission. Everywhere Mira went, cadets whispered her name. Some called her brave, others called her lucky, but everyone agreed that she had done something no one expected. A human had faced a real death world and returned stronger. Commander Ryle had shared the recordings of the mission. During the next training meeting, the cadets watched the footage of Mira's calm leadership as she faced storms and wild creatures. When the video ended, Ryle said only one thing: "This is what true focus looks like. Learn from it." From that day, many cadets who once doubted Mira began to treat her differently. They greeted her politely, asked her questions about Earth, and wanted to know how she stayed calm under pressure. Mira answered each question with patience. "It is simple," she often said. "You watch, you think, and you act when the time is right." But not everyone was pleased. Some instructors and senior cadets thought the attention she received was unfair. One of them was Captain Vorn, a senior trainer from a warrior species known for its strength. He believed that survival was about power and aggression, not calmness or strategy. He decided to test Mira in his own way. One morning, the announcement came that a new advanced training program would begin. It was called Operation Stormfront, and it was meant for elite cadets only. Mira's name was on the list. When she entered the meeting room, Captain Vorn was waiting with his arms crossed. "Cadet Mira," he said in a deep voice, "I have seen your success, but I wish to see how much of it was skill and how much was luck. This program will not be like your previous tests. It will push every limit you have." Mira bowed her head slightly. "I am ready to learn, Captain." Vorn studied her expression, expecting fear, but found none. He grunted and said, "We will see." The mission briefing began. This time, the cadets were to survive on an artificial planet where the environment could change every hour. It could shift from ice storms to deserts, from mountains to swamps in minutes. The cadets would be divided into teams and asked to build a base strong enough to survive for 5 days. Myra was assigned to a team with Nico again. Along with 2 new members, Rila, a nervous but intelligent cadet with bright orange skin, and Daro, a tall cadet, who came from a water world. Each of them had unique strengths, but little experience working together. Before launch, Captain Vorn gave them one last warning. "This mission is about more than strength. It is about adaptability. The world will change without warning. If you cannot adapt, you will fail." The shuttle took them to the artificial planet. The moment they stepped out, they found themselves in a frozen wasteland. Ice crystals covered the ground, and the cold wind cut through their suits. "Let us set up camp here," Daro said, his voice shaking. "We can build walls from the ice blocks." Mira shook her head. "No, the environment will change soon. If we build on ice, the base will melt when the temperature rises." Rilla looked around, her orange skin dim under the cold light. "Then what should we do?" Mira studied the terrain. She saw a patch of rocky ground near a cluster of metal-like trees. "There," she said. "The rocks will stay even if the temperature changes. We will build our base around them." They began working quickly. Nico used his tools to cut metal branches. Daro shaped the rocks with his water-based tools, and Rila used her sensors to detect stable ground. Mira organized the work and designed the structure. "We build low and wide," she said. "A small base will handle storms better than a tall one." As they worked, the temperature suddenly rose. The ice around them melted fast, flooding the ground with water. Darrow panicked. The water level is rising. Mira pointed to the rocky area. Move the supplies there now. They rushed to move everything. Within minutes, the ice field became a shallow lake, but their supplies remained safe on higher ground. Myra quickly adjusted the base design to include floating supports using empty containers. By evening, it had a small but sturdy shelter. The walls were made from flexible material that could handle heat and cold. The roof was low and covered with rocks for weight. When the cold returned, the base held firm. As they sat inside, Nico smiled. "You always think ahead," he said. Mira shrugged. "I do not think ahead. I just prepare for what might happen." The next morning, the landscape changed again. The sky turned red, and the ground became dry and cracked. Hot winds blew across the plain. The temperature soared. Rila wiped sweat from her face. "We cannot stay in the base. It will cook us alive," Mira nodded. "We need shade." She pulled out the heat-resistant covers from their packs and began setting up a reflective roof. Darrow helped by channeling water from his suit system into the air to cool the space slightly. When the heat became unbearable, Mira suggested digging small pits under the shelter. "The ground is cooler below," she said. "We can rest there until the temperature drops." Her plan worked. The team stayed alive while other groups were forced to call for emergency help by the third day. Captain Vorn was watching closely from the control room. He could not deny what he saw. Myra's team was calm, efficient, and adaptable. Every time the environment changed, they found a way to survive. The fourth day brought new danger. The ground shook, and giant creatures rose from beneath the soil. Their bodies were covered in stone-like armor. The creatures attacked anything that moved. Rilla screamed as one charged toward the base. Mira shouted, "Do not run! Stay low and silent." The creature stopped near them, sniffed the air, and stomped around. Myra slowly picked up a glowing mineral from the ground and threw it far away. The creature turned and chased the light. Rilla stared in shock. "You did that again? How do you always know?" Mira smiled. "Because animals are the same everywhere. They follow what catches their eye. You just have to think like them." When the creatures finally left, the team repaired the damage and reinforced the walls. Even after days of heat, cold, storms, and quakes, their base still stood. On the fifth day, the environment changed one last time. Thick fog covered everything. The sensors stopped working. The team could not see more than a few meters ahead. Darrow's voice trembled. "We cannot find the signal beacon. We might miss extraction." Mira took a small light from her pack and held it close to the ground. "Fog moves high, not low," she said. "If we stay close to the ground, we can see the path." They crawled on their hands and knees, moving carefully through the mist. After a long hour, the beacon lights appeared ahead. They reached it just as the extraction ship descended. When they returned to the academy, Captain Vorn met them at the docking bay. His face was serious, but his eyes held a hint of respect. "You survived all 5 days," he said. "Your base was the only one still standing. You kept your team alive and calm. Tell me, human, where did you learn this kind of thinking?" Mira stood straight. "From Earth, Captain. My world changes every day. One season burns, another freezes. You learn to adapt, or you do not last long." Vorn nodded slowly. "Then perhaps there is more to your kind than we believed." That evening, the Academy held a gathering to celebrate the success of Operation Stormfront. Commander Rao spoke to the crowd. "The lesson of this mission is clear," he said. "Survival is not just strength. It is creativity, cooperation, and courage." One cadet showed all three in perfect balance. "Cadet Myra, please step forward." Myra walked to the stage, her expression calm. The room filled with applause. Cadets of every species stood and clapped for her. Ryle handed her a small medal shaped like a star. "For leadership, resourcefulness, and unshakable calm," said. Mira accepted it quietly and said, "Thank you, Commander. But this belongs to my team too. I could not have done it alone." Nico, Rilla, and Darrow joined her on stage, smiling proudly. The crowd cheered louder. For the first time, The Academy saw humans not as fragile beings, but as adaptable thinkers who could survive anything. After the ceremony, Mira sat alone in the observation dome, watching the stars outside. The galaxy felt wide and endless, but she did not feel small anymore. She remembered the forests of Earth, the storms, the heat, the cold. Every hardship from her home had taught her something useful. Nico joined her quietly. "You have changed many minds, Mira," he said. Mira smiled softly. "I did not mean to. I just did what I always do: look, think, and act." He nodded. "Sometimes that is what the galaxy needs. Someone who does not give up." They sat together in silence, watching the stars drift past the Academy. Mira knew more challenges were waiting. The galaxy was full of unknown worlds. She wanted to see them all. She closed her eyes for a moment, thinking about how far she had come. From a quiet girl on a faraway planet to a respected cadet at the greatest academy in the stars. But she knew her journey was not over. Tomorrow would bring new lessons, new dangers, and new discoveries. And she would face them all with the same calm courage that Earth had given her. A soft golden light spread across the great hall of the Intergalactic Academy. The ceremony for the new explorer's graduation was about to begin. Every cadet stood proudly in their uniforms, their badges shining under the ceiling lights. But among them all, one name echoed in every whisper and every conversation: Mira. The human cadet from Earth who had changed everything since Operation Stormfront. Months had passed. Yet the Academy still spoke of how she had guided her team through the harshest conditions. Her calm mind, creative ideas, and leadership had turned her into a living example of what true courage meant. Mira stood quietly in the second row, hands folded behind her back. She wore the same calm expression she always did, but her mind was full of memories. She remembered her first day at the Academy, when others had laughed at her small frame and simple clothes. She remembered the looks of doubt when she said she was from Earth, and she remembered raising her hand that day when the instructor said, "No cadet from a Deathworld is allowed." How that same instructor sat in the front row. Waiting to present her with the Academy Medal of Honor, Commander Ral stepped forward to the podium. His voice was firm but proud. "Today, we celebrate not just the success of our cadets, but the breaking of old limits. We once believed that strength alone defined survival. But one among us has shown that strength comes in many forms." The audience became silent as Ral turned toward Mira. "Cadet Mira of Earth, please come forward." Mira stepped up the stage. The hall was huge, filled with hundreds of alien species of all shapes and colors. But in that moment, all eyes were on her. Ral continued, "When we banned Deathworld Cadets, it was because we feared the chaos and unpredictability of their worlds. But you reminded us that fear and respect are not the same. You faced every test with courage, intelligence, and compassion. For that, the Academy recognizes you as the first graduate from Earth to receive the Explorer's honor." He placed a silver medal around her neck. The hall erupted into applause. Nico, Rilla, and Darrow stood near the front, clapping and smiling proudly. Mira's heart felt warm, but she kept her voice steady as she said, "Thank you, Commander. I learned that survival is not only about being strong, it is about learning, adapting, and helping others survive too." After the ceremony, the hall filled with friendly chatter. Cadets from every world came to greet Mira. Some asked about Earth's weather. Others wanted to know about her survival methods. She answered them with simple honesty. "Earth teaches patience," she said. "Every season tests you. You learn to listen to the world, and the world teaches you back." Later that evening, Mira walked through the Academy gardens. The stars shone bright above, reflected in the silver lakes. Nico joined her, carrying 2 steaming cups of sweet tea from the mess hall. "You did it," he said, handing her 1 cup. Mira smiled faintly. "It was not only me. We all did it together." Nico shook his head. "No, Mira, you showed everyone what humans can do. Before you came, people thought Earth was a wild, dangerous world that broke its people. Now they know it also makes them strong." She looked at the sky. "Earth is not easy," she said softly, "but it is home. It teaches you to face storms with open eyes. The next morning, the Academy Council called Mira to a meeting. She entered the council chamber where the highest-ranking officers sat around a circular table. Commander Rao was there, along with Captain Vorn and the head of the Galactic Research Division. "Mira," Rao began, "we have a proposal for you. The Council has decided to reopen the Deathworld training program, and we want you to help design it." Mira blinked in surprise. "Me, yes," said Vorn. His deep voice carried respect now, not challenge. "Your insight is valuable. No one understands how to survive change better than someone who has lived it. We want to train all cadets, not just humans, to think like survivors, not soldiers." Mira thought for a moment, then nodded. "I will help. But if we do this, we must teach cooperation first. Deathworlds do not forgive selfishness. Survival is about helping each other." Vorn gave a small smile. Spoken like a true leader, and so began Mira's new journey. She was no longer just a cadet. She became an instructor, working alongside the Academy's brightest minds. Her classes were unlike any other. Instead of endless theory, she took cadets outdoors to face unpredictable simulations. One day, during her first training session, a young alien cadet complained, "Instructor Mira, this is too hard. We cannot survive this storm." Mira looked at the storm clouds above and said calmly, "Storms always pass. What matters is what you do while they last." Her words spread quickly among the students. Soon, everyone at the Academy began calling her the calm of Earth. Months turned into years. Mira's teaching methods transformed the Academy. Cadets who trained under her became better leaders, less fearful, more patient, and more creative. They stopped relying only on weapons or power. They learned to observe, adapt, and think. The change reached far beyond the Academy. Reports began to spread through the galactic network about the Earth method, a new style of training that emphasized flexibility and problem-solving. Other academies across the galaxy began copying it. Back on Earth, people heard of Mira's success. The news reached small towns and large cities, and humans felt proud. For centuries, they had been seen as primitive by some galactic races. Now they were respected for their resilience and intelligence. One day, Mira received a message from the Galactic Council. It was an invitation to join an exploration mission to the edge of known space. The mission aimed to chart a region filled with unregistered planets, including new Deathworlds. Mira accepted without hesitation. Her team for the mission included Nico, Rila, and Darrow. They boarded a new ship called the Endeavor, designed for long-range exploration. Before departure, Commander Rao met her at the launch bay. "You have done more than anyone expected," he said. "You have changed how we think. Whatever you find out there, remember this. You carry the hope of many worlds with you." Iris saluted him. "I will not forget, Commander." The ship lifted off, breaking through the Academy's orbital field. Stars stretched into long trails as they entered warp speed. Mira stood near the viewing window, watching the galaxy flow past. Days later, they reached the new frontier. The systems ahead were wild and unknown. Their scanners detected several planets with dangerous conditions and stable weather, strong gravity, and unpredictable life forms. Mira looked at the data with interest. "Perfect," she said softly. "The galaxy still has lessons to teach." Their first stop was a planet covered in constant lightning storms. No ship had landed there before because of the energy surges. But Mira saw patterns in the lightning and guided the ship safely through. The crew followed her calm instructions, landing without damage. On the surface, the team worked to collect samples. The air crackled with static energy, and every sound echoed strangely. When a storm approached faster than expected, Mira led her crew into a cave system she had spotted earlier. "Always find shelter before you need it," she reminded them. After the storm passed, the crew looked at her in amazement. "You make it look easy," Rilla said. "It is never easy," Mira replied. "It is just possible." They continued their journey across several worlds, each more dangerous than the last. One planet had heavy gravity that made walking difficult. Another had thick jungles with moving plants that reacted to sound. Each time, Myra adapted, taught her team new ways to handle the danger, and kept everyone safe. Months later, when the Endeavor returned to the Academy, it carried detailed maps of 5 new planets. The data would help future explorers survive and thrive. At the debriefing, Commander Ral and Captain Vorn listened to her reports. When she finished, Ral said, "Mira, your name will be remembered in every explorer's log. You have turned survival into a science." Mira smiled gently. "It is not a science, Commander. It is a way of living." Years later, statues of great explorers lined the Academy's courtyard. Among them stood one of Myra, hands behind her back, eyes looking toward the stars. Beneath the statue were her words carved in metal: "Adapt, learn, and help others rise." That is the strength of Earth. New cadets often stopped there before their first mission, reading her words with awe. Many whispered to themselves, "If she could do it, so can I." Far away, on a quiet mountain on Earth, an older Mira walked through green fields under a bright sky. She had retired from the Academy, choosing to live peacefully where her journey began. Yet she still received messages from young explorers who called her their mentor, their guide, their hope. As she looked up at the stars one last time, she whispered softly, "Thank you, Earth, for teaching me how to stand through storms." The night sky shimmered with countless stars, and somewhere among them, new explorers trained in her name, carrying forward the legacy of a human who proved that courage, intelligence, and kindness could shine even in the coldest corners of the galaxy. And thus, the Academy that once banned Deathworld Cadets now proudly carried the name of its greatest graduate, Myra of Earth, the calm survivor who turned fear into strength and taught the galaxy the true meaning of humanity.